I'm really what Sudesh said, to be grateful. I'm grateful for Sudesh. I've got a new expression, donkey polo. I show my age when I talk to people, and I said, this reminds me of a bad skit from a Benny Hill show, but people don't know what Benny Hill is. And when people ask me what I'm doing now, Sudesh gave me the words. As an operator, I'm a special breed who has been a scaler, who's now spending all their time betting and working with misfits. So that's my new personal mission statement. So I'm grateful to you for that. Thank you, Sudesh. One of us is in the wrong room apparently. But it's very relevant for this session, which is if Sapphire has invested in your firm or is looking to, you clearly have had one motion that works. It's unlikely that, from seed and A stage, you were working on 3 markets and 3 products at the same time. And the key question when Sapphire and others show up is, okay, it's time to scale. You guys have figured this out. You put your investor deck that you figured all your metrics, and you can hire reps into infinity. We know that not necessarily the case, and we also know the sad reality of when you hire the 20 reps and then they don't have enough pipeline and they aren't successful, and the first time everybody is sad, right? You have to change the flavor of the kombucha to distract the millennials, but at the end of the day, turns out growing, it gets harder every day. I remember the big transition from working at Siebel to Salesforce was we had 12 quarters a year. And as the business got larger, it actually got harder, not easier. But life is not a marathon, but it is 12 marathons within each year. So to talk about that, got 2 great speakers here. I think Bill's intro is longer than mine. I apologize for that. So Bill is Chief Revenue Officer at Pendo, which I wrote the first personal check-in when I met 3 of them in a bar. Turns out it's a much better investing thesis, just 2 drinks as opposed to looking at PowerPoints and slides. He oversees all revenue-bearing aspects of the business, including sales, success, and professional services. Bill spent a bunch of time doing sales leadership at Oracle, PeopleSoft, and BEA, and he joined the crazy crew at Marketo as its 17th employee in 2008, where he grew revenue from 0 to $250 million. Over nearly a decade, he led the marketing automation giant from a small venture-backed startup to a public company to going private with its $1.8 billion sale to Vista in 2006. His sales operation grew from targeting B2B to B2C, from SMB to enterprise, and from domestic to global, with customers and offices all over the world. And the last gig before Pendo was running all of the Asia Pacific team when Vista acquired the company in Sydney. So welcome, Bill. So Tali, Notman is the CRO of JFrog. Different experience, very successful CRO, didn't have to spend any time at Oracle, PeopleSoft, or BEA, or Salesforce. Has been running the global sales organization at JFrog from the beginning. Yep. With hundreds of years of sales experience previously. Turns out not the case. Scaled the company revenues from 0 to over $100 million, and from no market to 5,000 customers. She leapt into sales first time with JFrog, first sales role, following an HR career in tech companies, from inside sales to field and enterprise, from a single product to a DevOps platform. Tali has been steering the company's go-to-market and sales at scale. Welcome, Tali.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, first question is easy, and I do want to leave time for questions. Start thinking about your questions now. Otherwise, I have to come up with questions on the fly that I didn't prepare them for. It could be interesting. So, quickly, I'll start with you, Bill. What is Pendo? Why did you join? And what was the size of the team when you joined?
Pendo is in a category called product analytics, analyzing your products. So it doesn't matter if you're a SaaS company like probably most of us are, a bank or a telco, you probably have an app that has a login. And most of your development time is focused on creating features for that app that provide value to your customers, not on analyzing how your customers actually consume that product. And that's what Pendo does, is we track every click, every event, every API call that happens, so that you as a builder of a product can see how your users are consuming it, see what healthy consumers look like versus unhealthy. And that's the part of the analytics. The other half of what Pendo does is then provide in-app guidance. So once you've collected this information, this rich data set of what your users are using and what they're doing inside your product, you can help guide them through tour guides, through polls and surveys, to be able to collect their sentiment and to be able to help them get the most out of their product experience that you have. So that's what Pendo is.
Why'd you join? Are they close to your house?
No, no, no. I get on a plane to go to work. The executive team all knew what winning looked like, and no knock against the 30-year-old CEO. He or she might be fantastic, but I wanted to be with a team that knew what that looked like. Maybe a bit of the scalers from Sudish's presentation, and the CEO had IPO'd a company and sold it. The CFO had done that. Another one of the co-founders had done that. And it just looked like a team that knew what winning looked like. Not only that, on our devices, I walked in, I said, look, it looks like, I have Salesforce, I have LinkedIn on my iPhone. Those are all things that look like a natural fit, but I also have a Bank of America app on here. Do you see that as a fit? And they're like, yeah. I was like, I have a BMW app. Do you see that as a fit? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, this is a huge addressable market. So those two things really locked me in on music.
Size of the team?
I was about 140th person in.
How many reps at the time?
20.
20 reps.
Yeah.
Okay. Tali? JFrog. What is
JFrog. Yeah, so JFrog is the company behind the Liquid software vision. We believe that software should run through pipes like water. So we provide a DevOps, universal DevOps platform to our customers. The whole point of get to your consumers with your software faster and secured. This is what we do. The company, first of all, today it is 500 people. I joined when I was number 6 back then, 10 years ago. I still don't know the answer for that. No. To be honest, so here's the thing. I joined because I worked with my co-founders in the previous company. I was their HR, head of HR back then. And when I first joined, Shlomi, my CEO, which is a brilliant guy, if you know him, he told me, I wanted to join JFrog. I said, you're 5 people. What HR do you need for 5 people? So he said, there's a point here, but I came back from San Francisco with 500 leads and I need a help. So the first question I asked was, what is a lead mean? And this is where my journey really started. Why JFrog? Because of people, because of the big soul that they bring to work every day. Still, culture.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. First question. What's very interesting, I don't know if this was intentional by the Sapphire team, you all are in a similar space, which is what I'll call product or dev stack, which is this idea of a product. And these, when you both started, I assume there wasn't a budget. There wasn't necessarily a buyer. And to some extent, whether it was a widget they downloaded or something they trialed or used, it was a little clever and devious, obviously. But most of your initial success was a product that people started using, saw some success, and you figured out how to charge for them. And so your sales motion, if it was a sales motion, was probably relatively junior. It was probably an assisted purchase as opposed to a long value-driven sale, right? You probably didn't need Lars to come in and talk to you about account-based marketing at the time. And that was a home run. And the CAC was amazing, and you could just add water. Now, both of you have not moved, a natural progression is your product price point has probably gone up dramatically. You've probably spread dramatically within an account where people wake up one day and realize, oh my God, how much am I spending with this company? But I'm stuck because they're part of my stack. But now, you need to move up market. And whether that is you need to figure out how to take installs and trials to larger deploys, whether it's that you need to go enterprise, whether that means you think about, wait, if our product is so proven, why wait for them to buy after a year and sell them the deal up front? And so that's a very different motion. It can be a very different culture. So can you sort of speak to this journey, right? And you saw this journey at Marketo, and now you're seeing the journey at Pendo.
We are indeed. I mentioned when I came in, I saw the addressable market at Pendo was really, I thought, tremendous. And when I looked at the company at that stage, I said, you look like you sell to really nice mid-market software companies. I saw companies like Coupa, like Zendesk, like Marketo, not the Oracles and the Salesforces of the world. Do you want to go up market? And they nodded their head. And I said, you also look very domestic to me. Do you want to expand internationally? And they said, yeah, we built this company not just to be an English-speaking, US-only company. And lastly, I said, you're also very B2B focused. do you want to go out to other, and that was the Bank of America and BMW examples, and they said absolutely. And so, as I said, I joined as about the 140th employee, and the first thing that I really tried.
Was there a field rep at the time? One? Or what we call strategic
Yeah,
rep?
we call it strategic.
There was
or
one
two,
person?
Two.
Two people flying?
Two.
Okay.
Two. Other than that, we tried to hire everybody in local centers to have the ability to have access to marketing, to product, to sales training, all those different benefits of being in a single location. But what I came in and really kind of did a mind meld with the leadership team on was this concept of growing up Pendo, which meant going up market, going international, and then going outside of who our core buyer was at the moment. And that's a company-wide move, right? Because I'll give a couple examples. I want to go sell to Qantas Airlines in Australia, and Qantas doesn't.
Who doesn't?
Yeah. They don't buy through a click wrap agreement, which means I need to get legal and train legal how to work through indemnification and LOL and stuff like that, right? That's not a sales function, but it's a function that supports sales. Likewise, Toyota in Japan says we're interested and they want to buy, but when we call at 3 p.m, what time is that wherever the support ticket gets logged? Okay, again, not a sales function, but one that supports sales. So that means the company has got to be ready. I go sell to BMW in Germany, and they're going to say, I want my data center and my data right here in Germany. Again, a supporting function of sales, but not sales. So I think a lot of people misconstrue that like going up market and expanding is just, let's go hire a bunch of these strategic reps that are out in the field, they're really expensive, and plop them in a bunch of different geographic areas and it just magically happens. It doesn't. It's a team event. And so from that perspective, that's why I said growing up Pendo was really about the whole organization thinking about what's your part and your contribution to expanding that way.
Okay. Tali?
Yeah, I will add, I don't believe that as you're starting to build your sales motion that there is one good answer, and actually you cannot really open a book and look for the right answer. My belief is that you have to focus your sales motion on your customer journey, and maybe it's because I'm coming from HR previously, but that's what mainly we were doing at JFrog. So when we first started, the first question, and really related to what Satish was mentioning, was who's the buyer that I'm selling to, and who is really suffering from the pain that I'm about to resolve, because I have a real medicine for a pain, but who can understand it? And when the answer was that it's really the software engineers, so we understood that to speak with these people, eventually we have to build a bottom-up process that will be able to speak to their language. And if there is one thing that I believe you know about software engineers, is that they don't really they would avoid, let's say, speaking with salespeople. So that made a lot of sense to us, okay, that instead of having the enterprise salespeople to go and have beer or lunch with them, we prefer to have more of the technical resources out in the field and have inside sales only. So we build, and this is where we came with the inside sales motion. This is where we started. And then, going back to the product, just again, as you mentioned, along the years, we developed 7 more products, and we have today a platform. So a year ago, when we launched our platform, it was very clear that now we speak to 6 different personas, and our platform is already getting the interest of C-level and VPs, and therefore, we need to be able to speak to the top-down as well, right? Start to build the top-down. This is when the enterprise came to place. So I don't think that the question really is to ask yourself, okay, what is the right sales motion? Is really to be a good listener and have a good understanding of your buyer, the persona that you're selling to, and from there you need to develop. When we first, I remember the questions coming from everyone, including Jay in this room. You will not be able to make the $250,000 deal, right? $500,000, $1 million deal with inside sales. And Jay, confirmed, we're good? Right, and this is, but today, again, with the platform, we understand that it requires a different set of skills and different type of engagement, which requires the more of the field sales.
Got it.
Yeah.
Question for you. Both you people sell to a buyer who might not respond to Scott Holton's marketing attempts. You're selling to product and development. So they probably don't have a lot of patience for a first call pitch. They probably want to say, show me the product, get me to the detail, and they won't fall for any B2B marketing tricks. So how do you think about the people that you hire from a rep perspective in terms of the people you put in front, either both in the product and if you're selling to engineers? Are you hiring a different type of profile person, whether inside or outside? Are you, how salesy can they be? How do you look at that? How do you think about that? I'll start with you.
Sure. How salesy they can be. You know, one of the stories is that I hired someone and I told him, the only thing with you is that you have to take 6 pills off. You're too salesy to me, okay? Really, to be honest, we never had even one cold call to a customer. Our funnel is all inbound sales, and I believe and we are investing a lot in marketing. And marketing for software developers, is more community, okay? Don't make the mistake of looking at marketing. It is much more community activity, right? So you have to have the salespeople who are sharp, intelligent, I believe, right? But they also know how to build a relationship. They are coming as a trusted advisor, much more than a salesperson. And when you build it this way, when you bring a value to your customer, every time that you speak with your customer, you don't just send a follow-up. You have to come with a real value. Because you said right, they're going through their research. 70% of their research is actually already done before they got to speak with you, right? So you have to make sure that you bring a real value. And from there, to be honest, I found that both the enterprise and the enterprise field, right, and the inside sales, they have the same, it is almost the same category. It's just that they have different skills. They train different muscles with time, right? But this will be the base for both, for me.
Got it. And so, you know, selling to a marketer versus selling to a product head, what's different in hiring from a rep or the AESE motion, or what's different?
There's some commonalities and there's some unique things. Commonalities are that I have to be at least conversant in your language. I always say this to my sales team, no one wakes up in the morning with Pendo in their budget, right? We're not replacing them. We're not like Workday that's replacing PeopleSoft and a bunch of stuff. Like if you're buying Pendo, it's probably an aspirational sale. And so you have to be able to speak the language to get to them. You have to be able to do a demo in selling to our customer base. If you can't do a demo, if you have to bring in an SE, too much friction right away. Right. You know, there's other unique things. Like I don't know how many here, but at Pendo, we don't have company phones. I don't know about you guys, but we don't have phones sitting on our desks. And so getting a hold of these people is much tougher, which means, to your point, a traditional email's probably not going to, traditional marketing email's not going to break through to them and grab their attention. What's going to grab their attention for me is, I looked at this, and I see there's a few Marketo folks in the room. At Marketo, what we really try to do is shift from selling like we do email marketing and scoring and landing pages to, let me look at your website, let me go mystery shop it, let me act like a buyer, and then call you up and say, hey, Mr. CMO or Mrs. CMO, listen, I was on your site a week ago and the experience was this and I never got a call back. That's a problem we help you solve. And immediately that person would probably call you up because you're speaking their language, right? At Pendo, what I try to teach my sales team, at least if they're selling to tech, this works really well in tech, is go look at G2 Crowd, go look at Trust Radius, and don't look at the 5-star and eliminate the 1-star reviews. Go look at the 2, 3, and the 4, because that's the meat. And go pick up on the themes and call that product leader or that development leader and say, listen, I noticed these things. These are the things that align to my value props. And if you can get that message across in an email or, fortunately, a phone call, then you tend to connect a little bit.
All right, next question. At least in my history in being on boards or working with companies, and the history, quite frankly, for those that were Salesforce, Mark was the master of sort of divide, specialize, and conquer. I have these conversations all the time, like, this person's really good. You have a big business down market. Instead of having them run up-market business, hire somebody else for up-market and double down on that existing investor down market. It tends to work, sort of divide, conquer, and go. And yes, maybe people might be like, oh, I want to be the grand poobah forever, but the reality is you're not optimizing for success. So often when I'm in boards, I'll be like, look, the slide that marketing produces that talks about web visits and conversion leads and MQLs is kind of interesting for an SMB business. It's irrelevant for me in terms of looking at an enterprise business. And so the question I would ask you as you think about these different markets. Maybe they're not different motions. I think it may be a different motion for you, not for you. It's more of an extension. Yours may be a slightly different motion, but still it's around community-based, et cetera. I see you're trying to do more than one motion, the ability for you to align with your peers in product, in services, in marketing and demand gen, especially in thinking about these markets separately is key. So do you agree with that? And how do you think about and how you drive that alignment? So I'll start with you.
All right. I have a story here. In our Series C, one of the VCs asked me, he asked me all the questions about my team and their performance and so on. And then at some point he said, you generate all this revenue with 6 people only, quota carrying. And my answer was, and he immediately said, well, so you have to double your team, you have to triple your team, you have to, how easy it is on the Excel sheet, right? Yeah. So my answer was, so here's the thing, my team is actually a team of 100 people. And the reason is because I really believe that the right thing is to look at your sales team, your sales force, that includes the marketing, the product side of the company, unbeatable support. You cannot, even if you have the best salespeople, you cannot get to where we are today and where you guys want to go, right? Without having this alignment, without having the understanding that this is actually one team. So the first question I'll ask you is, who's sitting in a roadmap meeting, right? Because in a roadmap meeting at JFrog, you'll find the product team together with R&D sitting with the business side of the company, because eventually, if you want the product to be aligned with the business and the business to lead the product in a way, right? With the needs of your customers, then this has to be built together. And how do you build a sales motion, a land and expand sales motion, when you're injecting all of these insights of the business into your roadmap, having differentiators, between your different editions of your solution and so on and so forth. So for me, and going back to my team, eventually, every time when we win something, I keep reminding them that we couldn't do it without them. So this is something that I believe it's very, very important. Thanks for asking about it.
What is the biggest debate you have?
The biggest debate I have
peers.
With my peers.
It sounds like unicorns are running around in pink rainbows at JFrog. Everybody gets along. Like, what is the debate? Where's the drama?
I'll tell you what. So at some point, right, at scale, the businesses keep pushing.
Yes.
The first years is all about the product. You
Right.
first of all need to prove that you have a real product to sell. Then it's all about business. And the transition from where the product is the center to where the business is now leading the company, you have to be very sensitive the way you do it.
Right.
You have to continue, again, because of the fact that this alignment is super important. But this is really a transition. If I'm looking at JFrog, we started our company in Israel, and the headquarters, the question of where is the headquarters today, it's a big question, because the R&D and 2 of the co-founders are in Israel, but we also have the business here and the co-founder and CEO here. So I believe that this is one of the challenges in this transition, making sure that you continue to respect and you continue involving them, making sure that it is a one team, really. Yeah.
So Pendo is interesting. I remember the board meetings when you had some people like, you need to go enterprise. Get out of S&B. And they would be like, wait a minute, you make $20,000 a year from a 10-person software company. And it's like a 30-day sales cycle. That sounds like a good business. And if that business grows, you've got them. So your NRR is really high. So you've got this low end of the business for which you never hire enough reps for, right? You always overachieve. And then you've got this high-end business where you've got large accounts coming to you wanting to be a strategic partner. How are you managing those two motions?
Yeah, so...
and how do you drive alignment, especially on product and demand gen?
Yeah, so complex question there. So first, tackling the part about how we manage the split.
Right.
So we started a lot like Salesforce, took a playbook from what you guys did of starting SMB, and are trying to build our flywheel. I wouldn't quite say we're done there, but to your point, with the 20K, 30-day sales cycle, we're getting there. And we have a really great benefit. We're headquartered in Raleigh, North Carolina, and so we can hire people there, which is much less expensive than the Bay Area or Boston or New York or these other hotspots of tech talent. So we just have great economics against that. The challenge is, as you noted, our software isn't just an easy download. You actually take Pendo code and put it inside your code. So think about any developer, any product person you work with, how sensitive they are about what goes in there. Plus that affects potentially your data protection agreement that you guys offer to your customer. Plus we have to clear all security, every elements of that. So just that component alone of selling to a big company, a name brand company, is months, right? So now we took that 30-day sales cycle and we just elongated it. Compound that with the fact that, as you know, when I joined the organization, we did more than 90% of our deals through trial. 90% of our closed ones went through trial, which means, let's just be honest.
And it's real trial.
Yeah, like that's like you might write a 30-day piece of paper, but realistically, that's 60, 90 days. So I've got 3 months on just security and I've got 3 months on the trial, right? So I've taken something that was beautiful down here at 30 days and said, how do I do that, right? So we focused on a couple things. As you're aware of, Brett, being an investor, we reduced on trying to get people away from the trial, and that works in certain elements, and doesn't work in other elements. But what we talked about is it's a very different motion. I need the company behind me and understanding that. That's hard. You know, when you're a CEO and you have a team of investors and they're used to quarters that look like this, and now you create this lumpy thing, that becomes really hard, and it takes a gut check inside of everybody. You have to be pretty real about what you're going through and accept that. So that's one element. The cooperation part across the team. Well, to sell to big companies, obviously, if I'm going to invest 6-9 months into a sales cycle and I'm going to go get a land, well, how big is that land? Is the first question I'm going to ask. It hopefully, if it's 6 times bigger than my small sales cycle, better be 6x. Well, guess what? It's not. It's not. Which means I better have something prepared to come back as the second act. And that's the key motion that we're trying to figure out right now, which is once we land them, we can go get another division or another function of the organization sold. But how do we come back and create that net revenue retention element that we can go back and continue to sell them and get them not only wider with what they first bought, but deeper with new products that we're selling to. And so that requires obviously my product engineering team to be thinking ahead of how we do that. And then from a selling perspective, I mean, Tali sounds like she's gone from 1 to 7. We're in the motion right now of 1 to 7 buyers. We're in the motion of we built the product for selling to product management teams. And that was the original mission. And that was very software focused. And then as you go enterprise, and let me just be clear, enterprise isn't Oracle and Salesforce. Enterprise is Safeway, right? Enterprise is other types of companies. They don't have product teams as we define them in the software world. So we have to adjust within our target buyer who we're selling to depending on what level we are. But then meanwhile, we're seeing customer success call us up and say, hey, you have all this great data on how my user is interacting with our tool. That would be beneficial for me. I have marketing calling me and saying, hey, I could go and do some A/B testing against trials that convert versus trials that don't convert. That's a great idea. I have sales calling now and saying, well, what if I built my demo with built-in guides that you guys provide so I can walk my customer through how their journey is going to look? That's a lot of different buyers, right?
Yep.
That's a complex sale for an inside person that's selling a $30,000, $20,000 deal in 20 days to be able to do, let alone an experienced pro-level seller that's out in the field.
Right. So we got less than 10 minutes. I'll write a blog post at one point. The big thing that I see is if you're moving enterprise, maybe different for JFrog, but daily releases of the product may not be your best friend. So third question. As you make these transitions, started in Israel, team here, product-led, now business-led, Raleigh, fun team, bring in folks like you, folks like me on the board. Now it's a business, now it's a grind, now we're going after it. You know, Rajiv is giving you a hard time every day calling you, right? So you've moved from sort of this up-and-comer, pesky, you against the world company. Right? And it's a weird thing, right? We get young people who leave after 3 years. Like, it was a great run. We're on. It's no longer fun. We're at 200 people. You're like, what? What happened here? But now you're clear early market winners or mid-stage market winner. And you're no longer in one location, right? You started in Raleigh, but now you have sales teams in many locations. You started in Israel. You probably have many locations. How do you think about culture from a CRO perspective? I'll start with you, and then I want to end with you because you started in HR and you sold out by going into sales. But I want to hear the HR. I want to hear the HR element. So how do you think about the culture? Because it's an interesting, funny story, right? Bill goes to his first offsite. I'll just a little inside baseball, and he does like a military story. We're going to take the beach team, and he called me up. And he said the team was really offended about the military references that we're going to take the beach. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm the wrong person for this. But anyways, so how do you think about culture?
My natural reaction, I've been out of college 26 years and been on quota that entire 26 years, is to go and talk about comp. But I think Sudheesh talked about it in his leadoff comments here. There's not an employee that's joining a company without looking at Glassdoor today before they walk in the door. And that cultural element is just so important. And it's a thing of pride for us, specifically at Pendo, because we're in Raleigh, North Carolina, so we're in the South. And that Southern hospitality, that Southern love definitely comes through inside the organization. We have 7 company values, and I've never seen a company more tightly that more tightly prescribes to their values. And so people always say, well, you hire and fire over these values. We fired 2 people 2 weeks ago because they were just not a value fit, a fit against our values inside of the organization. You made the joke about the kombucha and the different flavors. Those are table stakes, I think, of most tech companies today that you've got to have, but you've got to get the culture right, that someone comes in and, first of all, it's an inclusive organization where people come in and say, like, there's other people like me that I can feel comfortable inside the organization. And that's diversity, that's gender, that's sexual orientation, that's everything. I think that a company that celebrates differences. Look, we all try to differentiate our product. Why wouldn't we want to differentiate ourselves, right? So, let's celebrate that. I think that's a key thing that's happening today inside of the organization. And so that's the company level, right? That's the atmospheric level. You've got to clear that because it's so easy, especially, and we do have an office here in San Francisco and in New York and in London. It's so easy for people in those locations to go find something else if it doesn't meet that criteria. Now, once you flip to the sales side, I think people have to see a lineage, right? Like I have a statement, a lot of people have gotten to know me, know this, that I say career paths are for B players. Career paths are for B players. Now, I'm the first one to have career paths because you have to paint that picture, but I believe that if you're a performer, opportunity knocks on your door and you don't follow a linear path of how your career, look at Tali, right? Like coming from HR into sales, that's not a linear path for the typical CRO of an organization. And I think you've got to provide that visibility. And so I always say to my team, I want people to want to come work at Pendo because there's this path that no matter where they start as an SDR, an AE, a first level manager, whatever, inside of the revenue organization, they can grow their career, and we can help them by training, by supporting them on that, by giving them optionality to be able to go take moves. Like you said, like Mark was the master at divide and conquer. Find ways to go grow the people, not just keep them in one spot forever. So that's the first piece that I think about. And then the second half of that story is I want to be known as an organization that people like to recruit from. Not that I want anybody to recruit my people, but I want to be known for it because that means we're probably training people, we're probably giving people career paths, they're probably having success at their individual roles inside the revenue organization. And so that means people want to pluck them off because they say those are great people.
Okay, Tali.
I just want to refer to Glassdoor because I think it is an important thing. Eventually on Glassdoor you only find the ones who are complaining after you laid off, right? Them or their friends. So what I decided to do it's just a very small note. Is
I thought
that
you should just give them a performance review. Just go on Glassdoor.
I actually, and I recommended my managers as well, my VPs, to speak about it. When you interview candidates, talk about it. Don't try to hide it, and explain what is it that they see on Glassdoor, that and invite them to come and see for themselves, right? So this is just a very small note. With regards to culture is a very big thing at JFrog, but I think that as a CRO, eventually you need to look at culture from 3 different angles, right? 3 different rings, let's call them. One will be really the organization culture, right? Your sales organization culture, and you have the company culture, but you also have the market culture. And these 3 has to really fit, right? And you have to build it in a way that if you know that your market culture, speaking of software developers, right, and how to work with them or with their directors today and VPs and even CIOs And CTOs are different, okay, and this market that we are in is different than other markets. So you have to align the culture, okay, the cultural fit, we spoke about it, right, of your team members to your market culture. And if you're looking at the company culture, you have to ask yourself if the culture you build for your organization, the sales organization, is aligned with your company culture. At JFrog, we've built the JFrog Codex, what we call the Codex. And you will find there the values, the core values that not us as management, as leadership, decided to put together. Because we said, okay, this is what we feel, this is what we think you feel in JFrog. No, we said we want you to tell us how you feel at JFrog. So surprisingly enough, not only I'm coming from HR, but my CEO as well. And maybe that's why really the way that we build the culture, the way that we build the Codex is tell us how you feel here. And eventually we created these 10 core values. Win is one of them, customer happiness. Think of how perfect it is, right, for what I need to use. And transparency as well, looking at, again, at the cultural, the market fit and my team culture and care. So eventually making sure that all three are aligned, okay, that you know how to get to all three as one. One thing that I can tell you is that at JFrog, you know, I have different colleagues that are telling me that for them, if you have a rep that is not making his number after the first quarter is out, I don't believe in it. I don't believe it's possible, really. But when we are doing our QBRs, right, a performance review, the question will not only be what percentage, is it 70%, 80%, 60%? No, it will be what is also the reason and what is an improvement plan, right, that you have in place. And when the reason is that they are lacking maybe knowledge or they need more practice or they need, you know, tools or whatever it is, I'm willing to invest. And my team members will be definitely willing to invest. But when the reason is attitude issue,
Right.
it's zero tolerance.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Good. All right, I lied. We are out of time.